We have David Schoen, civil liberties attorney, criminal defense attorney, Gregg Jarrett, Fox News legal analyst, author of the #1 bestseller, The Russian Hoax. Greg, what was your reaction to that speech? I don't know if you had the same reaction I did. I was stunned. I don't know Susan Collins well, but I know her better today.
It was nothing short of brilliant. With uncommon eloquence and sound reasoning, she delivered the finest speech on the floor of the U.S. Senate that I've ever witnessed. And for a non-lawyer, it was a compelling legal brief in support of Kavanagh. I thought it was important that at the outset, Collins condemned the outrageous behavior, the distortions by special interest groups, activists, protesters, and some Democratic senators, making it clear that their shameful character assassination backfired on them as far as her vote is concerned. And the best part of what she said was recounting many of Kavanaugh's opinions to demonstrate that even Democrats and liberals should be satisfied, if not pleased, with Kavanagh as a Supreme Court justice. But, she did something unique here. She rebutted the sexual misconduct allegations and said in no uncertain terms that presumption of innocence and fairness is relevant in the Senate's advise and consent duty. And she announced her own standard for considering accusation. She said it should be more likely than not, which lawyers know in civil cases is called a preponderance of the evidence. And she said it wasn't there. There were no witnesses to corroborate Christine Ford, including her closest friend. Nobody has any recollection of it. All said so under penalty of perjury, so she presented that was what was probably the most impressive. I mean, a real, obvious, heartfelt caring for Professor Ford, also excoriating whoever it was, and she doesn't believe it was Dianne Feinstein, and she defended both her and Senator Grassley in terms of the fairness, which I've said from the beginning. I think the seriousness of the allegation deserved a serious response from the Republicans, and I'm often a critic of them, and I think they did handle this perfectly on their side. But whoever did leak this did a grave disservice to this woman, and there's no doubt about that. David Schoen, let me bring you in and get your initial thoughts on what we watched unfold here. Now with the announcement, Jeff Flake, Joe Manchin, and Susan Collins, it would appear that tomorrow's vote, expected to be around 5 in the afternoon Eastern Time on a Saturday, that Judge Kavanagh has the votes to be confirmed to the United States Supreme Court.
Right, certainly looks that way. I'd like to think that Senator Collins' speech brought some dignity back to the process. It certainly did for the moments in which she was speaking. She, is a student of Senator Bill Cohen from Maine, who's a very close friend of mine, with whom I disagreed on some issues, but he thinks in that same vein. You're absolutely right. What she said was so critically important. Again, it emphasized the language of Article 2, Section 2, the president shall have the power with the advice and consent. That's what's been lost in all of this. Also critically important that she emphasized the presumption of innocence. You have some legal scholars and commentators during the course of this debate who all of a sudden have said, well, the presumption of innocence doesn't really apply. This isn't a trial. It's not a trial-based concept in American law. That's a fundamental bedrock American principle. That's the way we go about our business. We don't assume based on allegation that a man or a woman who's built up a career is guilty. So it's important for that. I worry still, I have to say, about where we go from here, because we have seen behavior by United States senators that has been beyond the pale, that I never in my wildest, perhaps naive dreams could have imagined was possible. People who simply don't know anything about Professor Ford or Judge Kavanagh, who carved out a position. You were a bad guy if you didn't wear black to Columbia Law School during the Kavanagh hearing, because that meant that you might believe Judge Kavanagh. This is beyond the pale. These are future lawyers. So I worry about where we go from here. And last point I want to make on this is the very same people who were lambasting the president for daring to criticize crooked FBI agents who have been proven to be crooked, Strzok, etc. Those people for whom Strzok was a hero are now criticizing the FBI that this wasn't a fair or thorough investigation. They moved the ball with their criticism, whatever it is. For Judge Kavanagh, it was that he was a sex offender. Now he's not that. but they don't like his demeanor because he took it personally when they called him evil.
They don't like his temperament. How is one supposed to respond to be a serial drugger and gang rapist of teenage girls? I don't know what the appropriate response, except if you're innocent, just outrage and anger at a level that I couldn't even begin to describe. But it looks like this goes forward. It looks like Kavanagh has the votes that will support his nomination, and that this will conclude tomorrow, barring any unforeseen last-minute, insanity. But I will tell you, one issue we've got to deal with, and I got to say goodbye to both of you. Thank you both for weighing in on this.